All right, guys, we're going to look at how you can use sandbag training along with your kettlebells to add layers of progression. And really what you want to start off with is understanding what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to get out of this. A lot of times what we do when we teach people overhead work is we actually get them in sort of a horizontal position first. This is due to the fact that a lot of people have shoulder and thoracic mobility issues, so we can start working on the principles of overhead pressing and core strength while we actually correct some of those imbalances we have. So what we're actually going to do first is the lateral bag drag here. So Troy's just going to get set up in position first before he starts moving. Now a lot of people forget the base support that they're taking. You want to start with a nice wide base. What this is going to do is ensure that you're a little bit more stable. Now what's next important is really what's happening with Troy's elbows. If he lets his elbows flare out, he's going to really destabilize those shoulders. He's going to want to corkscrew in. He's not letting his hands rotate out. He's just corkscrewing his elbows in so that you should see the crease of the elbow almost pointing straight ahead. If you see too much of the crease of the elbow pointing back or inside, you know you're destabilizing the shoulder. He's actively locking out his legs, which is going to activate his glutes, keep him in a nice tall posture. Go ahead and relax for a second, Troy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the sandbag lateral bag drag. And what you want to do with this is you always want to start, and actually it's always a slow drill. It's hard to reverse for a lot of people. Beginners are going to go a little faster because they're not going to be able to hold the position as long. To advance it, you actually want to go to a longer period. So beginners can do about 3-second count coming across the body. Advanced people can go anywhere from 5-6 count. What's really important is the fact that the bag is actually dragging across the body. You don't want to just pick up and move it because as he drags it, he's going to have to fight all these rotational forces. So Troy, let's get in position. He's going to grab on the outside, nice wide base. I'm looking for his hips to rotate or to come up. What we're looking at is some different sling systems of the body. Basically, if he goes ahead and reaches across with his left hand, I would look to see if his right leg would come off the ground. So he wants to make sure to really ground himself and really slowly pull across his body. Let's do one more, Troy. The other common compensation is when people pick up one arm, they sort of lose that tension stability that they've created in this off shoulder. So you really want to emphasize that as you go ahead and pull the sandbag across the body. Make sure that the hips don't start coming off, you don't start swaying. As soon as we see that, and relax, he's done and he's tired. So usually the repetitions are only going to be anywhere from 2 to 5 per side. A lot of times beginners are going to fatigue much faster, so start with a lot less volume, and then we're going to show you how you can progress this into the renegade row. All right, guys, now we're using the lateral bag drag with a sandbag to layer a progression to the renegade row. Again, first we have to understand what we're trying to get out of the renegade row. It's not really an upper back exercise. If it was an upper back exercise, we'd have Troy working from a more stable position so he could actually load the upper back. This is more of an anti-rotational and lateral flexion type of drill. So we're going to see his body integration again, trying to improve his neuromuscular, intermuscular coordination, basically how the muscles work together. So what you want to watch out for are really obvious compensations. People rotating their hips, elevating their glutes, and destabilizing their shoulders by allowing those elbows to rotate out. Make sure that if you're using kettlebells that you're aware of the base that they have. If you're not able to go ahead and use a small base or a bigger base kettlebell, you can always go ahead and let it fall out and use the top base as your arm support. As you get stronger, you can go ahead and get more stable position. Remember, we never want to risk people's injury over the use of an exercise. So Troy's going to set up just like he did in that lateral bag drag. Nice wide base to start with. Toes digging in the ground, legs locked, his glutes are firing. He's going to slowly try to pull one kettlebell off of the ground. Again, we're watching for that rotation from one side to the other. So again, if he picks up his right arm, it'll be that left leg. If he picks up his other side, it'll be the other leg. So if he picks up the left arm, we're gonna watch for that integrity of the right leg coming off the ground. A little bit of weight, if you do this correctly, is a lot of work. So even right there, when he pulls to one side, I'm looking for the asymmetry. He's actually now having to work hard to resist this side than when he does the opposing side. I'm looking for his ground contact in his legs, make sure his glutes don't come off. And relax, Troy. A good little cue is if you feel tension in your glutes being lost, chances are you're going into a little bit of hip flexion, that glutes are coming up in the air. So you want to sort of re-engage, make sure you're in the right alignment, or terminate the set, allow yourself to recover, and then perform another small set. Just like the lateral bag drag, usually the volume has to stay pretty low because otherwise you start compensating and then you lose the whole essence of the exercise. All right, guys, now we're going to flip-flop things. We're going to use the kettlebell to actually progress us into a sandbag exercise. With the rotational lunge, it's a powerful drill. We're getting this big projection of load. We're moving in an unstable base, and we're tolerating high eccentric forces, and we're getting all these multiplanar forces acting upon our body. It's a lot for a lot of people to work for. You could progress the rotational lunge, but something else you can use is the tactical lunge with the kettlebell. There's a couple different ways you can use this drill. Troy's going to begin. You always want to start drop stepping because we want to correlate this to your rotational lunge. So he's going to drop step to the same side as he's holding the kettlebell, drive up to that heel after he exchanges the hands, and then he's going to just switch the legs up. A lot of people tend to lose this vertical trunk alignment. They try to leverage themselves. For some people, that's a problem because they don't have hip mobility. Others, it's an issue because they're trying to build stability because of the weight moving as they're in an unstable position. So the two ways that you can work with this drill, you can work it nice and slow, and you can work on increasing load, and you're going to find over time as you use heavy kettlebells, you're going to build up some strength. Or if you start to pick up some speed, what will happen is the kettlebell will start to sway back and forth a little bit more and more, and that will also increase your challenge because you're going to have more forces to deal with as the kettlebell shifts back and forth. So it's a nice precursor to your rotational lunge because the weight of the kettlebell moving is underneath your base of support and makes it a lot easier to manage. All right, so now as we move to the rotational lunge, a couple things we want to be aware of. Number one is we never allow the trainee to alter basically their stride length or their postural alignment. A lot of people, as they start doing this and they start to pick up speed, they're going to do the same compensations we saw in the tactical lunge. They'll start to increase their forward lean, they'll start and shorten up their stride length. We want to see a pure lunge motion here. You want to make sure that the rotational lunge refers to the rotation of the implement and not your body. It's actually a very strong anti-rotational drill. All the mobility is going to be coming from Troy's thoracic spine, not his lumbar spine. So let's start slow and small to begin with. So a lot of times we just get people used to stepping and having the weight rotate upon them. A lot of people, this is a really novel feel because most times when we lift, the weight moves in line with our center of mass. Now as he's moving, the weight's moving around his body, causing him some instability. So then we can just have him start to step a little bit faster, and what we're going to see is that the sandbag starts to move a little bit more. He's keeping a nice tall upright posture. His eyes are straight ahead because your body follows your eyes, and as he starts to move faster, the weight that comes up becomes more as it comes down. So the lever arm increases, he's absorbing more force as he comes down. So you always want to see a nice pure lunge with it, not having any movement from the hip or the knees collapsing, a nice tall chest at the top. All right, guys, now we have a little bonus series here that Coach Anderson and I wanted to put together for you. So after you do all this sort of anti-rotational, anti-lateral flexion movement, we want to start producing rotation. And what we can use is the kettlebell to sort of introduce this. So what Troy's going to basically do is a rotational clean. By pivoting inside his body, the kettlebell starts close to his center of mass. So what he's going to do is produce force off that left hip and quickly pivot through the right leg, bring the kettlebell to the clean position. The nice thing about this is that he's learning how to develop force upon more one side of the body, but also pivoting the hip. He's also catching the weight in a very strong position, and even though he's rotating back down, it's still basically under his center of mass. This is going to help because we're going to work on this transverse plane and also these different kinetic chains that we get, and that lateral motion and the transverse action that we're starting to produce and layer with the sandbag. So when we come back with the sandbag, we're going to change the position. It's going to make a profound difference upon the impact of this exercise. So now with the sandbag, what we're going to do when we do this rotational clean is basically we're going to start on the outside. We're also going to absorb force on the outside. So it's a little bit of a less stable position. So using that kettlebell regression is really important in making sure people are qualified to do this lift appropriately. It's a great athletic lift to perform though. So Troy can deadlift the weight up. We like to work from the top down. He's going to pivot to one side. So same idea, but he's a little bit more on the outside part of the body. He has to develop force, catch it, and then he's going to absorb it coming back out. So he's got to quickly be able to pivot and rotate to the other side. What you really want to watch out for as he pulls up is that when he comes down, he doesn't lead with the shoulders rounding forward. He's got to learn how to absorb and catch those arms, just like we talked about in the lateral bag drag and in the renegade row. So you see a correlation between these lifts. Now we're producing force, now we're learning how to absorb force more effectively and efficiently, and we're working through different planes of motion, really developing overall athleticism.